Hello everyone and welcome to episode 3 of the campaign log. This session, the players finished up their first dungeon and cleared the entire thing. And as well, they finished making their characters near the end of it, because we finished like 15 minutes early after rolling a random encounter. That was probably going to take longer than that. So the monk has finished picking their feats. They ended up with Step Up, Vicious Stomp, which makes it so when someone falls prone, they provoke an attack of opportunity. Everyone changed their teamwork feats around to Shake It Off, because I allow my players to pick a free teamwork feat. And the War Priest took the ritual casting feat that I homebrewed in place of a blessing, because I make it really easy for classes that should have access to ritual casting to get it. So, you know, wizards can take it as an arcane discovery or cast as an exploit, magus, war priest, cleric, druid. Pretty much just all the prepared or at least partially prepared casters that are actual casters. Alchemists are not actual casters in Pathfinder. They're different. So it's not especially easy for them to get it. So they still do have ritual casting in the party to, you know, do lower level spells in like an hour and at the cost of money. And what Shake It Off does is it gives bonuses to all saving throws per adjacent ally up to a maximum of 4, but there's only 4 players. They're only ever going to get 3 out of it. He grabbed Deft Maneuvers, and he is going the jabbing style route, which at higher levels will be doing just like several, like 4d6 extra on his latter half of attacks with the same target. So he's definitely going the more heavy hitting style of monk. So let's see, last session they ended off after clearing this area, and they did find out that they did figure out that the deck of cards was marked. So after that, they ended up going over here, like I predicted, to the cultists that were doing this ritual. They did decide to wait till the ritual is finished, and they negotiated with the cultists so one of them had become enlarged. The war priest had enlarged, I think, on one of the alchemist's extracts. So I was like, yeah, there's 4 players, 3 cultists, and one of the players is enlarged. And the cultists know they're not very good at initiative. They're going to negotiate for a surrender. So they did, and then the players told them to go sit in this corner, or stand in this corner after surrendering and leaving all their equipment behind. And I described how as one leaned up against the wall here, he fell through the wall because the secret door was so old that it just fell apart when he went to lean on it. And that's how they got back here and ended up they did this encounter, which I did increase the effectiveness of the zombie werewolves. I gave them, I think, extra +8 to hit, give or take. +11. Plus an extra +11 to hit. So they still needed like I think an 18 or 19 to hit the monk. But they actually were able to get at the war priest, and after a single full attack, the war priest was at 1 hit point again, and started to heal himself, moved the tower shield around to provide himself total cover and all that. And the monk had gotten in there by the second round of combat, so the zombie werewolf had other targets. So after that, they didn't want to continue going back here until they finished up out here, because they'd yet to check out this room. And they wanted to clear that before they went to the secret door back here area. But they did get this chest, which had in it just under 4,000 silver pieces and about 240 gold pieces, and a +2 belt of dexterity. So I think 3 out of the 4 players have a belt of dexterity at this point. So they closed the secret door behind them, went back over here. There wasn't anything in this room, but they did the perception check and found the secret passageway. They ended up here in another fight with another zombie werewolf. They did much better here because the hallway was a choke point, and two of the players have breath weapons. One of them has a I think a 30-foot line attack that does acid. It doesn't do very much damage. And the other one has it just racially as a dragonborn, and it's a 15-foot cone, but it does like 3d10. So it can do a good amount of damage, as opposed to the guy who got it from Transformative, where it does 2d6. And I think he rolled like a 3 and a 1 for a total of 4. The thing is, the War Priest was in that line and had to make a save, and he rolled a nat 1 and then a nat 2. So on 2d20, he used a racial ability to re-roll. It's a once per day ability for Dragonborn in my world. He rolled 2d20 on the save, got 1 and a 2. So with 2d20, he rolled lower than the gunslinger did with 2d6 on his damage. So they then got this chest, which had a ring of sacred mistletoe, which is a really low level like druid magic item. It improves some druid things and gives like a +2 to a couple of skills. And the Shillelagh spell, which increases the effective size of clubs or quarterstaffs for damage purposes. And they were not interested in it. They ended up just putting it in the loot pile. We'll sell it later, along with a pair of ghost vision gloves, which they also were not super interested in, because they did try them out, because the alchemist took an undead transformative, and they wanted to see, what does he count as an undead for, seeing undead versus seeing living. And the way the player who took the transformative described their character, what they looked like afterward, and the image he AI generated afterward, is one of his hands is now his left arm is just like mostly undead, and it's like purple and got some blue like kind of glowing veins in it. And I pretty much described as, when you activate the gloves, you can only see like his left arm and then like 20% of the rest of him just in scattered bits and pieces. And they all found that really interesting. Additionally, in between sessions, one of the players asked me about the chest and asking if it was initially they thought, oh, there must be a false bottom to this chest or something, because these cultists have like a bunch of magical gear. They have a +1 weapon, +1 armor. Why does the chest have so little loot in it? And I had to inform them, like, the cultists didn't go through the illusionary wall. They didn't figure that out. They weren't paying enough attention. They had other things to worry about, like playing cards and losing to the guy with the deck marked cards. So there was no false bottom. It was just, a small chest with not that much in it. And one of the players is here testing out their attack rolls to make sure they work right. But yeah, so what they did figure out is, the chest is like 6,000 years old. Surely there's someone who would want it. And I thought about it. It only took me like a minute or two to think about it, but I was like, this place was fairly sealed up. There's a good chance that, first of all, it's dry as a bone, or at least was initially, several thousand years ago. The bacteria and microbes and whatnot and fungus that would be, eating the wood and rotting it and rotting corpses will have ran out of oxygen eventually. So that's why the zombies have not turned to skeletons after several thousand years. And additionally, why all the wood in the dungeon, or at least like half of it, what's left of it after the rotting stopped due to lack of oxygen, it has had a chance to calcify and become petrified wood. So these chests, they initially were like half rotted and falling apart, but eventually, because of the oxygen deprivation, they stopped rotting. And then as the stalagmites on the ceiling started to form from water dripping through with the calcium dragging along, the chests eventually, I don't think that's how petrified wood is normally done. It's normally just time like it's, I think tar pits have resulted in some petrified wood, but it's a form of petrified wood. All the chests, all the handles of the zombies spears, which have the flint mapped obsidian, and they did roll a knowledge nobility that would, they just barely hit the DC. It was a 15 because the guy is kind of famous for it, but there's a noble in the barony to the south that really likes old stuff. He has like a massive museum that's constantly growing of just historical artifacts and missing pieces of lore that he sends people to find. So they're probably going to take the train down to the capital to the south and sell the 4 chests that they found and all the spears. And I did inform them, like, hey, the more you know about the place it's coming from, the more he's going to be interested in it. And they know an approximate age of 6,000-ish years. They still don't know who the temple was originally dedicated to. Like, they have location, they have time period, but they don't have the important details. Now, what's likely to happen, because that noble has quite a lot of knowledge skills, I think he's in the plus 20s for them, is they're going to mention the zombie werewolves, and he's probably going to figure out, Temple Lunaris from a long time ago, before lycanthropy was viewed as something that was bad. So they took those. They have the 12 cultist holy symbols, which they turn in for rewards. They captured the leader alive, which is an increased reward once they get back. And they have 4 other captives that are basically just bonus, because no one in the party is evil, so they're not going to kill them when they surrender. The ritual was this Castrol 9 Scroll of Flame Strike, which they now have. The cult leader had 7,000 gold pieces on them of their own personal money, mostly stolen from the road, that the party now has. There was, of course, 11 plus 1 morning stars, 11 plus 1 breastplates. The cult leader had a plus 2 chainmail, and there was 15 spears in total. And I think that, and anything else that they found that isn't in the loot pile is already on the character sheets, because they equipped it like when they found it. Like all those belted decks they found, it was just immediately who's wearing this, because pretty much no one had a belt slot item at that point. We did also have to clarify some things for the monk. He thought that the hand wraps, which are a weapon, took up his hand slot for magic items. And then he is also trying to do the magic item set, Aurori's Meditation, eventually. So there is a mistake with Aurori's Meditation. The monk's robe and the body wraps are both the same item slot and body slot. So I pretty much told him, yeah, the body wraps can be a chest slot for him, because most GMs, when they go fix this, just make it a different slot item. And since I'm also pretty much just full allowing most of the magic item conversion rules, we're also making an Amulet Mighty Fists that is a hand slot instead, and he's going to go buy one of those when he gets into town. And because the plus 1 guide hand wraps are my idea, he's going to get full refund on those. And then he's going to spend the extra 8,000 for however much the plus 1 guided Amulet Mighty Strikes would be, or Amulet Mighty Fists. But it's going to be a hand slot item, because he doesn't really need other hand slot items. And because magic is fun when it's weird and doesn't make too much sense and has less limits, I am just going to allow it to be a different slot item. Because one of the players, the War Priest player, is kind of an expert on A, the creating custom weapons, but also B, the algorithms and formulas to create magic items or convert a magic item into a different thing. The price difference between like having a regular Amulet Mighty Fist or having a slotless Amulet Mighty Fist. So I'm kind of leaning on him as a crutch, which is really helpful that he knows that. and can help me out with that. But yeah, so they found the corridor up here. They went up here. There was 4 of the primitive zombies. For whatever reason, one of them went invisible. It's not the invisible condition. It's just a glitch that happened. I think I pressed too many buttons on my keyboard at once. And that happened before they died too. So I'm not sure what happened there. But they figured out just from kind of looking at the map, like, oh, this is the barricaded room. This is why the cultists barricaded the place. So they ended up going up here to this barricaded door, unbarricading it, prepping, like doing their pre-buffs, opening it, and the monk went up here, found some zombies, yelled at them to get their attention, and then ran back. But the war priest was a few squares into the hall and doing his blockade shield thing. And, you know, the gunslinger and the alchemist, they could just shoot the zombies from there. But the monk was kind of annoyed, so he ended up running all the way around. And this is the guy who played 5th edition for a long time and hasn't played Pathfinder in years. I had to let him know, like, yes, he started his turn here. He moved 15 feet, and I was like, yeah, it's a move action to open the door, and you need special abilities to split your movement between actions in Pathfinder. So his one turn took him from here all the way to here, or not all the way to there, and then his second turn was only 15 feet of movement. And then by that point, all the zombies had turned the corner of this corridor. Half of them had already died, and they were just attacking the war priest shield at this point. I think overall, because of the way the war priest was doing the shield blocking, and because the zombies didn't really have any other choice than just wail on the shield, they ended up, in total, they did like, I think 6 or 8 damage to the shield, which, you know, the shield, because it's tower shield and it's like a +1, or I think it's +2 numeric bonus. I don't remember which, but it had like 7 hardness, which, yes, I think it was a +1 item, and it's 2 hardness per +1 on top of the base tower shield, 5 hardness. And then also it had 30 total hit points, because it's 10 hit points per numeric bonus, and tower shield starts at 20 by base. So his tower shield has plenty of hit points before it gets to 0, or before it becomes broken, which is at half hit points. They're on their way back to town, and the random encounter they rolled is swarms, so his shield is not going to be taking any more damage. So it will cost like a bit of money or some time, and some time to fix his shield, but he's probably just going to ritual cast to make whole at that point. And of course the monk is also doing trip builds. That's what he's doing, or disarm as well, which is the reason he needed guided wondrous item instead of a weapon, because he wants to do like a leg sweep thing once he gets his next Unchained Monk ability. That leg sweep falls under the category of, which the hand wraps would not help with, because the hand wraps are a weapon and only attacks with the hands actually have the hand wraps apply. So that's why we need to change things around. But yeah, so by that point the zombies had gone into this hallway and were wielding the shield, and the monk got lost and ended up just going straight through here to here, and the next round after that he ran off over to here. And then initiative dropped because I didn't want to tell the monk he was about to enter a new initiative. I just figured he'd keep moving while the players moved up more slowly. And then by the time the other 3 players got to around here outside combat, the monk had gone here and triggered this encounter. So I had everyone roll initiative again, and he just immediately booked it back. And there's the secret door here. So I had the werewolf zombie. Because they're intelligent, and has a perception check, unlike most of the mindless zombies who are kind of just, you know, approximating a 10 on all perception checks for the sake of time. He was gonna, and he knew, the werewolf zombies knew about the secret doors because they were overseeing the construction of the place. So he was gonna be there and like radiating action and stuff to jump out and get I was hoping for the gunslinger because that's like the only person with low AC, so I was just gonna completely shred them if I got the opportunity. But the monk was a coward, ran all the way back here and started searching for secret doors because there have been secret doors all over the place, and this seemed like where one would be based off of the way I was building the place. And he was right, he did find one. He opened it, and the the werewolf zombie was right there. And I think the monk got like one. He did a trip attempt because he already uses move action to open the door. So the zombie fell prone, but you can still full attack while you're prone. He has a penalty to hit, which means which basically meant he needed like, I think a nat 20 on the claw attacks and a 19 on the bite attack because of weapon focus to hit the monk at that point. So he wasn't very useful. The monk still did not take damage from the werewolf zombie in this encounter. But I almost got my wish of being able to hit the backliner with the tough enemy. But yeah, so then the war priest and the alchemist were up in this corridor dealing with the zombies. But the war priest had retreated temporarily, so he could not see over here. And the alchemist's sight ended, and like this was the last one of these squares was the last square he could see because he's human and was carrying a torch of some kind. So the zombies were just outside his view and they charged him. Now of course only one of them can get into melee because it's only a 5-foot wide hallway, but it was still fun to charge him and then have the war priest be like, oh, I did a bad job tanking and frontlining. Because he didn't think they'd get there in the thing, and I was like, yeah, only one of them actually had the movement to get there, but that's all I need because it's a tight corridor and only one of them can get into melee anyways, no matter how much speed they had. But yeah, so, yeah, I think part of it was that he did say he's used to zombies having only 20-foot movement, but I do not have zombies. I'm on ruler, so I can't even open the sheets. I have zombies. The difference being is that they are not staggered by default, and they have the full 30-foot movement speed. So after that was the last encounter. I told them after they said like, hey, if we check this entire place, is there going to be any more combat? I was like, no, that you've cleared the place. So they did a ritual to set up an alarm spell near the entrance, asked the cultists if they were expecting anyone else to arrive here. They said no. The players rolled a sense motive that was like in the mid-20s. I was like, he seems to be telling the truth, because you can't just say, yeah, he's telling the truth. You have to say he seems to be telling the truth, because that's how sense motive works. It gives you yes or no. It doesn't guarantee the yes or no. But the cultists weren't bluffing. They don't have. They figured they were hidden enough and far enough away from civilization that they didn't need to have scouts going around. So as long as there was no one actively waiting to ambush a merchant, a traveling merchant, or someone else traveling on the road, they were all just in the dungeon here. As they tied them all up, stuffed them in that room. The cult leader has a strength of 9, and the regular cultists have a strength of 12, so they weren't getting out of a decent rope job. So I didn't even bother having them roll. And then the next day, they started their trek back to town, which, if we head over to the random encounter page, they rolled a deadly random encounter. They rolled monsters, because that's a 50% chance with the hostile encounters to have monsters. And they rolled vermin. The thing is, they rolled a 10 on the d10 for creature type, and they thought, oh, this is gonna be bad, like Dragon's Sign. It's like, no, it's vermin. The chart's in alphabetical order. It goes aberration, animal, dragon, fae, etc., all the way down to vermin. This is like the one chart where higher doesn't mean more extreme. Because apparently I was lazy about it. So they're doing 6 of these army ant swarms, which have 88 hit points each, but the players also, I forgot to tell you, was in the last chest. So the last chest had a +1 annual natural armor and a type 1 necklace of fireballs. So they just got a necklace of fireballs and then rolled up vermin, and the only vermin I have ready on the table were swarms. So the swarms are decently nasty because, first of all, deadly encounter, so there's like 6 of them. They have 88 hit points. AC 20 shouldn't be much of an issue, but a touch of 20 might be, because the alchemist's attack rolls are fairly low. Although the alchemist, because they rested in the dungeon, does not have the symbol of pain debuff anymore, so his attacks are going to be normal again. Additionally, every creature on this page has a dazzled condition, because I rolled a weather event that was, yeah, there's no clouds today, it's extra sunny and bright. So even creatures that are not normally bothered with sunlight have dazzled condition, which doesn't really affect swarms, because dazzled is just, I think, a -1 on attack rolls and perception checks. Swarms don't make attack rolls, and they're certainly not going to need to make perception checks. And these things do 3d6 swarm damage, and their distraction, what's the DC on their distraction? 10 plus half hit dice plus con, which would be 15. So yeah, distraction is not that big of a deal, and they're not really casters anyways, so it's not. Or no, distraction does nauseated, doesn't it? Is it nauseated or just sickened? It's nauseated, so yeah, they wouldn't be able to take actions at that point. And there's more swarms than people, so there's going to be some overlapping. So yeah, it's going to be, the fireballs are probably going to, the necklace of fireballs is probably going to help soften the swarms up a bit, because AoEs do additional damage. But with 88 hit points, the type 1 necklace of fireballs maxes out. Like if they threw the entire necklace, I think it's only 3, 4, 5, 6, 76, which at max is 42 times the 1.5 vulnerability. Yeah, that's not going to kill a swarm, even if they roll max damage with the whole necklace. So, I mean, they're probably going to hit most of the swarms with it and nearly kill them, but none of them have a swarm bane clasp or any other way to hit swarms of a fine size with, you know, melee with regular weapons. So I don't know what, I'm not sure what they're going to do. They're probably going to run. The thing is, they have the cult leader tied up that they need to figure out how to run with. So that's going to be a bit of a pain. So we'll see what they do. We'll see how they make it out of it, because that's the first thing they're doing next session. Although the players did level up, they're now level 7, because I had decided if they had full cleared the dungeon, including all the bonus rooms, it's going to be full level. And if they only do the cultists, it's only going to be a 4th of a level, because they do fractional milestones, because the cultists were not that big of a threat, as it turned out. Which is one of the reasons I had to make the werewolf zombies stronger, or at least hit more often, is because I wanted them to be worth more XP, so I needed to make them harder. Let's see. So Sacred Armor is War Priest 7th level ability, but that's not important. He took 2 weapon fighting. He's going to be shield bashing with the tower shield and his spear. He's going to be dual wielding them, which I think normally he can't do, but he was talking about third-party feat that allows you to shield bash with a tower shield. And I told him, yeah, go for it. It's not that useful. It's certainly less powerful than the unhindering shield feat, and that feat it's about as difficult to get each feat as the same number of prerequisites of similar difficulty. And for now, he's not going to be bashing with the tower shield. He's going to be switching to heavy shield mode, because he has a folding shield that can switch between different types of shield. So he'll be bashing with heavy shield and basically switching between offense and defense mode like he's some kind of Yu-Gi-Oh monster. We already covered the monk's feat choices. The gunslinger appears to have taken the clustered shots feat. Let's see what that does. Ooh, this is the thing for guns that lets you... Oh, any ranged weapon that lets you make all your attacks count as 1 for the purposes of damage reduction and hardness. That is certainly neat, especially since he probably got that because, you know, zombies have DR5 slashing, and the only person with a slashing weapon is the War Priest, who has like 50 weapons in their inventory because they don't have to worry about encumbrance. So, and the thing is, he was complaining because, like, he said, man, I bought all these weapons with different, you know, qualities and damage types, and then I just completely forgot to use them, and someone else had to remind me, hey, you have a sword, why aren't you using it on the zombies? And then the Alchemist, let's see what he picked for his extra discovery. That's a bit boring. Yeah, so he got chemical stability with it, which allowed him to, I think it doesn't misfire anymore, or at least only misfires on nat 1 at this point. And then he also is able to use alchemical cartridges easier, which means he reloads on free actions now, so he does not have to worry about reloading with the alchemical ordnance that does a ton of extra damage. And I feel like I'm forgetting something with their level up. Right, skill ranks. So the Alchemist also spread his skill ranks around from the new level. He now has, I think, every skill that requires training. He has at least a rank in. And it looks like usually 2 or more. Not geography or history or handle animal, that's right. But the party as a whole does not, or slave hand, but the party as a whole does not, they're not caring about handle animal at all. They've already decided, you know, animals, 2 of them have animal animosity. They're just not going to bother with handle animal. They're going to make it, you know, a trope that their party just does not you do good with animals at all. But yeah, he's got most of the important knowledge skills. Geography and history might be useful, but like survival replaces like 90% of knowledge geography. So yeah. And history, I don't think he's too interested in mechanically. Like, it's not going to give him too much a buff. And the monk has chosen a god to worship. Well, not a god, he chose an outsider lord. And basically he chose a regular Pathfinder god, this one here, which you can pause and read if you want to. I'm not really going to go over it because it'll just be repeating myself. And I basically said, you know, that's, you know, that sounds like these stats and like qualities of this god would fit well under one of the inevitable lords, so one of the lawful neutral guys, because it does match his alignment, lawful neutral, and the alignment of the inspired god. And I basically just copied it and tweaked a few things to, I changed like there now. So originally it's history, knowledge, and self-perfection. I added self-realization and enlightenment to that, because that's what the monk was looking for. And of course the name of that outsider lord is because all the inevitable lords have kind of depressing names, as is the case with lawful neutral, extreme lawful neutralness. So this one is the painful truth, and it's mostly about realizing not only the truth that you don't want to realize about yourself, but also others and the world around you. So he's going to be, you know, it's a lot about fixing your own flaws after realizing, you know, figuring out what your flaws are, whether you want to know you're flawed or not. The domains are healing, knowledge, strength, rune, and law. The holy symbol is as you see here. I made him, so favorite weapon is still unarmed strike, like the god that's based off of. Additionally, I added it's followed mostly by monks and philosophers. And that's the god hates hypocrisy. because of course that's like the exact opposite, which I think now means I have to make one of the protein lords like partially based around hypocrisy. And the other inevitable lords, no relation to the other gods, at least not worth noting down in the player handout. And I have not made a blessing for them yet because he didn't seem interested in it at all, because it kind of locks you in and he doesn't know enough about the setting yet. But it should be fine. You should be happy with that. They did discuss the information letter with some of the other cultists, and basically what they figured out is, yeah, these lowly cultists, you know, they haven't met these guys. They might have heard about them. They know what position they're in, you know, that they're all higher ups. You know, the Rowan, the Knight, Father Octo, and the High Priest are all higher ups. The High Priest is the highest, and his tower is an actual like wizard tower, even though he's a divine caster. Because they asked, like, is it an actual tower or is it like metaphorical? And they're like, no, it's an actual tower, and it gets bigger over time, or at least taller over time. Which they didn't really press harder on that, because they figured out, like, hey, these cultists don't know much that is not directly related to what their job is. Thing is, they still haven't asked, like, who do these guys worship? They have not asked that. They have not made a religion check on the holy symbols. Like, they've not done anything to learn what type of cultists are these. Are these like demon cultists or devil cultists, or, you know, they just haven't bothered that. Like, they don't care, apparently. Even though they want information about the cult, they just don't want that information, which is probably fairly important. The War Priest did use it. He has a bite attack, which is an alternate racial trait for the Dragonborn stat block I made, and he was biting the ancient human zombies because they have such low AC that it was fairly easy. So he, even though they weren't able to hit him, just the fact that he was taking bites out of them, he had to keep making saves against their disease, the brain worms, and he ended up failing and having to use a hero point to reroll. Because I told him, like, it's just brain worms. How bad can it be? But, you know, it's in the name, brain worms. It's pretty bad. You know, it's just a regular disease, so it's only a once per day. The DC is fairly low. He'd probably cure it in 2 days, but that's still, like, it does wisdom damage and intelligence damage. Yeah, it's not. It's fairly bad, and it's like D3. It's not just like 1. So it can screw you. It can screw you really quick and just destroy you. But they didn't walk away with any diseases. They're all good. The monk, I believe, I am gonna have to tell him that, you know, it's a new day. You're gonna have to, and you wouldn't have your buffs on. Just what you might have mage armor on, just walking around. Although it's only a caster level 1 wand, so it's only an hour, so maybe not. So I'm gonna have to ask him, like, how many rounds are you gonna spend toggling your buffs? Actually, he probably shouldn't bother with the buffs because swarms don't target AC. So that he doesn't need them. But yeah, that should be pretty fun. What's the other buff? Controlled blood rage. Yeah. But yeah, I don't know what they're gonna do against the swarms once they run a necklace of fireballs. Like, the War Priest might be able to. They do have the Scroll of Flame Strike, but that's max gonna hit like 4 swarms unless the swarms start overlapping each other. So they're probably gonna use the Scroll of Flame Strike. I think they discussed that. But after that, like, the War Priest doesn't have any AoE spells. The Alchemist, I don't think, has anything either for that. Yeah, nothing there. What about inventory? Does he have a pile of Alchemist Fires? Nope. Yeah, so if they can't kill the swarms with the Necklace of Fireballs and the Scroll Flame Strike, they're gonna be in trouble. They're gonna have to start, you know, improvising some stuff, and, you know, having the entire team work together to lift a rock to crush like half the swarm at a time. But yeah, so that's everything you did, everything I predict they're gonna do, at least in this random encounter. I have no idea what they're gonna do once they get back to town and start dealing with the story of the campaign again. I should probably actually flesh that out a little bit more and prepare a few lines of speech for the beginning of the conversation on the church's part. Because as it is, I think I only have like a few bullet points of what the church is going to cover initially without any questions asked. I should probably have like at least not a script, but like a few cool lines to say to make sure I'm not like stumbling my words or anything. Ooh, he might just be testing his hand wraps, but that's 2 nat 1s right there. I think that's a good way to end off the video. I'll see you guys next week after the next session.